Welcome everybody, it's Tellum, and in this video we are going to be talking about Infinite Warfare Zombies again, and we're going to be talking about the storyline, but this one's going to be slightly different from my normal videos, because normally I would make videos just talking about the storyline, making theories, talking about new things that came out for the storyline, but this time around I want to talk about of where the influence for the storyline may have came from, and it's a pretty interesting place. Now keep in mind, everything I'm going to say in this video is mainly speculation. Most of it is just drawing lines to where there may not be lines to draw in the first place. Just keep that all in mind. And there are a couple things I'm going to be mentioning in this video for our storyline that may not actually be the case. They're kind of based on theories that we don't actually know if or if not they are the actual case for the storyline, so keep that all in mind. Now first things first, let me explain to you what the idea is. So the idea is that the storyline that we have inside Infinite Warfare Zombies was influenced from the actual story of Infinity Ward Studios. So I'll do a comparison towards the end, but first things first, let me just explain to everybody the actual history of Infinity Ward Studios, because they have a pretty interesting backstory to them. So I'm just going to be mainly focusing on the parts that really relate. I'm not going to go into that much detail either, so just keep that all in mind. So one thing to note is that Infinity Ward Studios is an Activision owned studio, so Activision owns all the rights to Infinity Ward. Of course, they aren't the ones who started it. That is an entirely different story, because really Infinity Ward Studios was started to make Medal of Honor, but then there was a bunch of problems between EA and Infinity Ward, and they went and split off with their different ways when Infinity Ward still owned themselves. But then Activision went over there and actually bought Infinity Ward. Of course, it's much more detailed in real life, but I'm just kind of giving you the basics of what actually happened. But the main thing to note from there is that Infinity Ward originally was its own studio, but then was kind of bought out, well, not exactly bought out, but kind of bought out by Activision. Now skipping a couple more years in the future, about to when Modern Warfare 2 was released, a pretty interesting thing happened with Infinity Ward, because the main two people, the two people who originally made Call of Duty, the guys who actually were the first ones to ever create it, Zampella and West, they both were actually fired from Infinity Ward by Activision. And of course this makes sense because Activision own Infinity Ward and they can fire whoever they want from the studio, regardless, even if they were the first creators of the game in the first place. And when they were fired, they went and created their own studio, and that was Respawn Studios, and of course you guys know they make Titanfall and all that good stuff. So skipping a couple more years, about mid-development of Call of Duty Ghosts, Neversoft was brought in to come help Infinity Ward finish up the game. Now keep in mind, Sledgehammer originally was helping Infinity Ward back in Modern Warfare 3, but of course they went on to do their own things, of course, which we all know now that they went and made Advanced Warfare, so they couldn't really help Infinity Ward anymore, and that's why Neversoft was brought in. When Neversoft was there, their main goal was to fix the mess that was left by Zampella and West, because when Zampella and West left, I forgot to mention this earlier, but a lot of people from Infinity Ward left with them to go create Respawn Studios, and so Neversoft had to go over there and help make up for that lack of staff. Now I'm not too sure if you guys could tell where that relates to our storyline for Infinite Warfare Zombies, but maybe you guys will find out after I explain a couple things. So keep that all in mind that I just explained, but now we're going to go to the storyline that's happening inside Infinite Warfare Zombies. So sometime in the past, we believe Willard Wyler made a deal with Mephistopheles, and at some point seemed to be controlled by him. And of course, because of this, Willard Wyler was able to make these really famous movies and built up his company, or his studio, his movie studio, into what the empire it was. But while working at his studio, Willard Wyler and his wife had a daughter, and at first his wife was the only one caring for her up until the age of 6, where we learned that his wife actually died, but Willard Wyler still couldn't be there for his daughter because he was too busy working with his studio. But then some time passes, and then his daughter actually becomes a main part in his studio. She's one of the heads on the studio, sitting on the board with him. And of course more time passes, and unfortunately Willard Wyler's studio starts going under, and because of this, a lot of people are telling him to sell it, to get rid of it, and all these different things, including his daughter. But Willard Wyler refuses, and because of this, his daughter leaves him and makes her own studio. And of course, if you guys have been keeping up with the storyline, you guys would know exactly what happens after that with his daughter and son-in-law. But then fast forwarding to when our characters, our playable characters, first arrive, and then we learn somewhat inside Attack of the Radioactive thing why Willard Wyler brought us here, and he says it's to unravel the spider web and fix the mistakes of the past. And of course, there's much more to the storyline. That's still an oversimplified version of it. And at this point, I actually would like to see how many people can actually see the connections between these two stories so far. So let me explain. So Infinity Ward is its own company, but it is owned by Activision. And Activision could make Infinity Ward do whatever they want. And for Willard Wyler, on the other hand, Willard Wyler is his own person, but he made a deal with Mephistopheles, and at some point, it seems like he is being controlled by him. For example, just like it's hard to tell when Infinity Ward is doing something, like microtransactions, or if it's actually Activision making them. Just like inside the storyline, it's hard to tell if Willard Wyler is doing something, like killing his daughter, or if Mephistopheles is making him do it. And the next point, Zimpel and West left Infinity Ward to make their own studio, Respawn, just like Willard's daughter left Willard's company to make her own studio with her husband. And the last main point, Infinity Ward brought in Neversoft to help fix the mess that was left over by the split of Infinity Ward studio between them and Respawn, just like Willard Wyler brought our characters, the playable characters, to help him unravel this spider web and fix the errors of the past. And that's about it for this theory, but go ahead and tell me what you guys think of it. Do you think there was influence from the actual story of Infinity Ward Studios, what happened to them, and they kind of made it into their own story in their zombie story? Or do you think these are just some awkward coincidences? But anyways, if you guys did enjoy this video, go ahead and thumbs up, and if you guys want to stay tuned for content similar to this, go ahead and subscribe. But I'm gonna go, and I will catch you guys on my next video.